Hey guys, I want to start out by telling you about the vocab. I know it's the second thing, and then I'll get right into the notes to keep it as short as possible. Vocab looks like a lot, and it will look like a lot, but it's not. So if you come down, it says the words federalism and asks for a definition, and it asks for a picture. Now, if you will look at the directions, it says define the term on the left. Try not to copy and paste, which means don't copy and paste a definition. You can go to the notes and find what federalism is. And so you would put the definition on this side. You would add a picture here. I also explained if you do this magic thing like hit tools and you hit explore, you can pull up the web over here. It's lovely. And then you can type in federalism. If I could type. Okay. So you can find the definition, you can find let's do this, and we can pick images. And so you can pick something, and I'm not saying what's a good picture. Some of those look a little too big for what we're doing here. Some of them have a flag because it's saying this country has a system of federalism. And so that could be something you use. And you just can take a picture and drag it over. So it really isn't as hard as you might think it is. So you go tools and then explore, and then you can look right here and pull stuff from Google. And if you saw, you can even do the definition. But as I said, try not to copy and paste the whole definition from this. So just look for different things on this side. You can get facts, everything else. It'll be nice and simple. So that's the vocab. I know there are a lot of slides, but really it's not that hard. I'm not asking you to handwrite and draw a picture, which would take a lot longer. So you should be able to do that and submit it. And since I showed you how to do this, there should be no issue copying pictures. And I know that chart last time frustrated some of you. So we didn't do a chart this time. I set it up on a PowerPoint, on a slide, a Google slide, and you should be able to do that. All right, so that would be how you do the vocab. You can go through the notes I'm giving you today and do a lot of it from it. You can go through the stuff we're doing tomorrow and get a lot of it from it. So this is ongoing. So don't go, I have to do all of these vocab today. I'd pick maybe the first 10 or 11 slides that are on the notes from today and do that vocab that we just talked about today. And then you'll have broken it down into pieces. You don't have to go, oh my goodness, there are 30 slides. I have to do them all now. Nope. Break them down. Do 10 today, do 10 tomorrow. I'm trying to keep the work simple. So today we have some notes to fill in. We have an ed puzzle to watch on the preamble, which is 3-4 minute video song. And you start on your vocab. So this shouldn't take too long. Remember to do your CNN. Remember to turn it in. If you forgot to turn in last week's CNN, maybe you could get that done today too, since there isn't as much going on. Trying to keep it simple so you can keep up. All right, so let's get right into the notes then. So shrink that. Here we go. So we're talking about the underlying principles of the Constitution. So these are our slides. These are my lovely set of notes that you would be filling in over here. So very simply, you would put the first 5 things here. So it says 5 fundamental principles of government, and you would take these 5 and put them right here. So popular sovereignty, the rule of law, separation of powers, and checks, balances, and federalism, which was just on your vocab on the other sheet. So all 5 of these terms are going to be on the other sheet. That's why I'm saying definitely do the ones you just talked about today. So we start with popular sovereignty. Sovereign, meaning you have the right to rule. So reign means to rule when it's spelled this way. So sovereignty, the right to rule. Popular refers to the population or the public. What is popular with the people is what's going to rule. The principle states that our country is ruled by the people. The Constitution protects this principle and is most easily seen through elections. Elected officials are voted in by the people and are accountable to the people. So just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they get impeached or get kicked out of office. They have to break the law, and they have to be able to prove that in the trial setting they do. So just keep that in mind. If the person wins the election and you don't like them, then guess what? Next time there's an election, make sure you're voting or your family's voting and you vote them out. So don't mess around or worry about fixing this time. That's not the focus. Then next time you vote for someone else if you don't like who is in now. The rule of law is next. The framers believed in a limited government. They didn't want a government that was too strong. They wanted a government that did only what the people wanted. Previous kings and queens in England were above the law, so rule of law is really stating no one is above the law. If you break the law, everyone is supposed to get in trouble. Now, granted, if you are wealthier, you can probably get away with a lot more than some other people, and I know people would base this on other various issues, but the concept is no one is above the law. So there have been presidents who have been removed from office for breaking the law. Richard Nixon would be an example of this. There have been Congress members and Supreme Court justices, people who have stepped down or been removed based on breaking the law. So no one is above the law. And just because you are impeached just means you're put on trial. That does not mean you are convicted of a crime. One has to be proven, just like anyone else going to court. All right, so then we have separation of powers, which we keep talking about, and we keep saying Montesquieu is our guy. And remember, we said it's 3 syllables for Montesquieu. So there are 3 powers: legislative, executive, and judicial. So just keep that in mind. Montesquieu had a great idea that the best way to make sure there wasn't an abuse of power within a government was to separate these 3 branches. The framers really liked Montesquieu's idea, and as a result today, we have the legislative branch, and they make laws, the executive branch, who enforces the laws, and the judicial branch, they interpret the laws. All right, so now we're getting to federalism. We'll probably hit these a couple of times in this set of notes, and it's good for you. You need to remember. So federalism means both the national government and the state government share powers in our country. People must obey their state and country's laws at the same time. So it goes into having 3 different types of power in these, but I want to make it clear there are state laws and there are national laws. So your state is in charge of making school laws and rules, speed limit rules, because if you change states, the speed limit changes. There's all sorts of marriage laws that are just state related, things like that, but the national government wins. So at any given time, if the national government wants to come in and say it's against the law for you to legalize marijuana, is the easiest one to pick, then it could decide to do that. So that's against the national federal law, and they could decide to limit that power if they feel a state is abusing that. So state laws fall under federal law. So city law has to obey the county, and then the state has to obey the federal government. And you can get away with stuff as long as no one wants to push the issue. As soon as the government says that's against the law to do that, they have that right. All right, so expressed powers. So finishing this up are things specifically written in the Constitution. Reserved powers are things specifically given to the state, and concurrent powers mean they share them. So the state and federal government can both tax. Reserved powers, like I said, is a state issue, so marriage laws are state issues. And express powers are things specifically written in the Constitution. So the Constitution says the federal government can set up courts or establish a post office. The implied power within that, because implied is your 4th power, is something that is not specifically written in the Constitution. So an example we'll see in a reading this week will say the federal government then has a right to establish a website for the post office. That obviously is not in the Constitution because websites didn't exist then. So that would be an implied power that goes along with establishing a post office. Think of it this way: if your parents specifically stated, can't say that word, that you can't have a party while they are gone this weekend, you could read into that and imply that it's not a party, you're just having a couple friends over and some pizza. So the expression is to not do something, but the implied, you may try to get away with some stuff. And this will happen in the government also. All right, so you will have an activity tomorrow where you are going to have to fill in the national government power, the state government power, and the concurrent power. I gave you the page number in your book that goes along with this. But you could also come back to this video and just fast forward to this part and fill it in from here. The Supremacy Clause states that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. That kind of goes along with federalism. What the federal government says to happen is going to happen, and they get that ruling. The states don't get to make treaties with other countries or anything else. So federal government and the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So a quick outline, because this is what we're getting into this week, and we'll go over this front end a little bit more in detail, because rushing through it isn't going to help you learn it. So the first paragraph to the Constitution is known as the preamble. It explains what is going to happen. It's the topic paragraph, an introduction paragraph for the whole Constitution. And I think I skipped one, but that's okay. So the preamble, after the preamble, the Constitution is broken into 7 articles. The first 3 deal with the 3 branches, so it goes legislative, executive, and then judicial. The 4th article deals with the states' relationship to each other and the federal government. Article 5 explains how to amend the Constitution. Article 6 declares that the Constitution is the nation's supreme law. And Article 7 explains how you can ratify the Constitution. All right, so once again, we've mentioned popular sovereignty. We didn't mention limited government that much. We said rule of law, but limited government means that the government can't just do whatever they want. So a few more of these concepts in a little more detail. The law must be conducted according to the constitutional principles. Limited government is also described as the rule of law. So just another way to say it, no one is above the law. All right, so the third one, separation of powers, we did go over already. Once again, just to kind of get you to remember these things multiple times. 4th, checks and balances. So along with separation of powers is the concept of checks and balances, meaning that each branch checks the other branch of government. So I get there's something right here. Let me get rid of that. All right, so each branch is subject to a number of constitutional checks by the other branches. So Congress is the branch that makes the laws, but the president can veto laws and says it's a no. So he can check that, and then Congress can kind of override him if 2/3 of them agree to it. It's hard to get 2/3 of Congress to agree to anything, though. Judicial review, so there's a new word for you. The power of a court to determine if something is constitutional or not. So, Marbury versus Madison is the case that made this happen. We will have to talk about some Supreme Court cases through all this. But Marbury versus Madison establishes this power of judicial review. So, legislative makes the law, executive signs off on it and enforces it, and then the judicial gets to interpret it and say how it applies to you. The 6th, we just did federalism, so I'm thinking you're okay there. So I'm going to make this big so we can talk about this now. So the preamble of the U.S. Constitution, you're going to need to fill this in. You can just Google it. You can listen to the song that is your Ed puzzle and answer the questions. But it goes, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So I need you to go ahead and fill that in, and then we're going to talk more about it tomorrow and what each of those phrases mean. The articles are set up like this, and I've already told you what they mean. What I want you to do is to come up with a sentence. So what I have used before is lions eat jungle snakes and sassy rats. Just to help me remember, it goes LEJSASR. And the S's are in order alphabetically. So ST states would become before SU supremacy. So on this, you come up with your own sentence that is appropriate to write here. Think about it. If you can't come up with any, yes, you can eat my lions, eat jungle snakes, and sassy rats. But think of something that will help you remember the articles in the order they come in, because you will have a quiz on filling in the preamble and just basic what your articles are, matching them with Article 1, legislative, Article 2, executive. So just make sure you come up with something that's going to help you remember. All right, so those are the notes for Monday. Have an awesome Monday, and I'll talk to you later.